This is one of the greatest fights that could happen. Ilia Topuria versus Justin Gaethje is one of the most interesting lightweight matchups stylistically. On paper, both men are known for their finishing ability, but their approaches are very different. Gaethje builds off pressure, damage, and attrition. Topuria builds off precision, timing, and efficiency. This fight comes down to who can force their structure first, and there are three major factors: distance, leg kicks, and defensive responsibility. Those three things will likely decide this fight. The first thing to look at is how each man builds his offense. Gaethje is a pressure-based striker. He likes to force exchanges. He often uses forward pressure to create reactions, and once he gets reactions, he starts building combinations or low kicks. But his style has a cost. He often accepts damage to give damage. That has always been part of his game. Topuria is different. He doesn't build off chaos. He builds off reading, entries, and by tracking head positions, and his counters are very compact. This matters against Gaethje because Gaethje often enters aggressively, and aggressive entries create counter windows. Topuria's ability to punish those windows could be a major factor. The second factor is the leg kick game. This is probably Gaethje's most important weapon in this matchup. Gaethje has some of the best low kicks in MMA, and they're not just powerful. They change footwork, balance, positioning. Topuria's boxing depends on stance integrity. He needs a strong base to explode into counters. If Gaethje can damage that base early, Topuria's movement changes. Also, it can change counter shot speed and his ability to exit the pocket. On the other side, Topuria does a good job punishing kickers. If Gaethje overcommits on kicks, Topuria has the timing to counter over the top. So this is not just about who lands kicks. It's about who controls the exchange after the kick. The third factor is wrestling. Not necessarily offensive wrestling, but strategic wrestling. Topuria has a real grappling background, and that matters even if he doesn't shoot often, because the possibility of a takedown changes striking behavior. Gaethje has to respect level changes. That means his hands will be probably lower than in some of his last fights, which can lead to openings for striking. If Topuria mixes wrestling into his striking, even lightly, he can force Gaethje to defend multiple threats, and that means he can easily fall into trap. Defense may be the most important difference in this matchup. Gaethje has improved defensively over time, but his style still involves risk. He often stays in exchanges longer than most fighters would, and in many moments he keeps to leave himself open. Topuria is far more defensively disciplined. He slips well, he stays compact, and he returns quickly. This is important because over multiple exchanges, the cleaner defender usually takes less damage. For Gaethje to win, he needs to control pace early. He needs to damage the legs, force a high-volume fight, and disrupt Topuria's timing. For Topuria to win, range control, patience, and countering off Gaethje's entries. If he mixes in wrestling threats, that improves his striking opportunities, and as we know, Topuria doesn't need many. Technically, Topuria has more paths to win. He has cleaner boxing, better defensive responsibility, and a more complete mixed martial arts threat. Gaethje's path is very real, but it depends heavily on early damage and pace control. If he can't damage Topuria's legs early, the fight becomes much harder. My prediction, Topuria by TKO, likely in the mid-rounds. Not because Gaethje is outclassed, but because stylistically, Topuria has more tools available, and in matchups like this, optionality often wins.